Hi everybody, so I decided to do my assistive technology screencast on a personal FM listening device. So this is a device, there's a picture of it on the screen there, that transmits a speaker's voice directly to the user's ear. So essentially it works as a microphone speaker system, and it amplifies what the user is saying directly to the listener's ear. It allows the listener to focus on what the speaker is saying and to actually be able to hear them. So this is an interesting piece of assistive technology because it's not something that would be found throughout the school. It's typically used to benefit one specific student. So if a teacher was to be looking for this piece of technology, they might have to, do a quick Google search and find it and actually have it ordered for their student, because it's highly unlikely that the school would just have a few of these lying around. This type of assistive technology is meant for students with hearing impairments, but it can also be used for students that can get easily distracted while listening. So if a student in your classroom gets easily distracted by birds chirping outside the window or cars driving by, and they need less distractions to focus on your voice, you might get this tool so that your voice is the only thing that they're hearing, and allowing them to thrive more in the classroom because of that. So essentially this is how it works. So the teacher wears the microphone and the FM transmitter, and then so their voice goes into the microphone and the FM transmitter transmits it to the FM receiver that the student is wearing. And then that receiver transmits it again to the hearing aid. As this little diagram shows, it can be used up to 100 meters typically, depending on the device. And that obviously is much bigger space than most classrooms, so it can be used across the classroom. Your student could be in one other side of the classroom and you could be in the other corner, and they'll still be able to hear you. So a personal FM listening device promotes inclusive learning because it allows students with hearing impairments to actually sit in class and to be with their peers, as opposed to being pulled out to have specialized instruction where the instructor can speak louder than what they'd be able to in a classroom, or as opposed to having sign language where things are, going to be a little bit different than what you said. So for my example, this is actually a piece of technology that I see in my classroom every single day. There's a student with a hearing impairment. This student has one ear that is completely deaf and the other ear has some hearing impairment. So in the classroom, my cooperating teacher always has her FM transmitter on, the microphone on, when she's teaching anything. It could be when you're reading a story to model fluent reading, or just when you're trying to teach a math strategy. And the trick is to only have the transmitter on when you're teaching to the whole group or talking to that student. It is important that when you go and work with a different student about something or to talk to them, that you put that transmitter on mute so that you're not amplifying what you're saying to that other student, to the student with the hearing impairment, because that's not what they need to hear. It definitely helps to make sure that that student can hear exactly what you're saying, because you could have them sit in the front of the room and they still might not be able to make out things, but if you're transmitting it directly into their ear, they're going to be able to hear you much better. So overall, I think that this is a pretty cool piece of assistive technology, because when I was getting ready to do this screencast, I thought about it and I was like, I haven't seen any assistive technology that I can think of. And then as I was doing research, turns out that a personal FM listening device is assistive technology, and I see it every single day in the classroom. But it's definitely cool because it allows students with hearing impairments to interact with their teacher and peers like any of their other classmates would. In my classroom at recess, the teachers will let the students take the personal FM listening device, the transmitter piece, so that they can go and play with her and talk, as opposed to having to be right next to her to carry on a conversation. As far as its user-friendliness, it's pretty easy to use. You just have to turn it on when you're teaching and remember to mute it when you are talking about things that the student shouldn't be hearing. But like any piece of technology, it can be pretty finicky, and I've seen the personal FM device in my classroom, disconnect and have problems with that aspect. So it's important that if you're using it, you know how to connect it back up so that the student isn't just completely lost because they can't hear you. It's definitely something that I would use in my classroom because it's so specific to the student that if a student needs that piece of technology, it really needs to be used in the classroom. If they can't hear you, you need to figure out ways that they can hear you, and that certainly solves the problem. So thank you for watching.